Well, it's another live after Monday Night Football. We saw the Rams get eliminated down to 4-10, the worst Super Bowl hangover of all time. Baker Mayfield didn't look very good either. Packers still on life support. They pick up what, their sixth win? I think they're 6-8 now. So Green Bay with 3 wins can finish 9-8. They need help, but if they get that help, and the 49ers are probably one of the teams that can help them, then the Green Bay Packers might end up in the playoffs. There's a lot of middling teams in the NFL right now cheering for the 49ers for a chance to play the 49ers because Washington is coming to Levi Stadium on Saturday. And if Washington picks up a 7th loss, then there are a lot of 7 and 8 loss teams currently on the bubble, including the Green Bay Packers, who won tonight, who will have some renewed hope. But those teams are desperate. They're in a bit of a situation that the 49ers were in last year at this time, right? The 49ers had a scratch and claw to get their way up to 10 wins, and then they had to have stuff go in their favor. I think a Saints loss to Miami was necessary for the 49ers last year. Well, all that happened for the 49ers, and then they beat the Rams in the final week of the regular season, and they made it. Then they won a couple playoff games. Teams like Green Bay are trying to do the same thing this year. I'm not saying Green Bay is as good as the 2021 49ers, but they're in that similar desperate position here in December. Anyway, we're here to talk about the 49ers, not about mediocre teams around the NFC. We're here to talk about the team that's playing the best football in the entire NFL, and that is the 49ers. And I've talked so much about Brock Purdy. I've talked so much about the number one defense, the skill position players, Christian McCaffrey, who has been absolutely sensational. I mean, his acquisition and insertion into the full-time lineup has been the turning point of this 49ers season. I'm going to have a much more on that as this week progresses. But today, just want to zero in on stuff that people on the internet don't like to zero in on because it doesn't get enough clicks, but that is the offensive line. And it is of massive importance to the 49ers. And the reason I have Ben Baldwin's name down at the bottom of the screen is because Ben Baldwin made this composite chart. This is the true pass set grade for offensive lines in the NFL. True pass set means how do offensive lines block when they know that the pass rush is coming, when the pass rush knows they're going to be pass blocking. No play action delusions here, no trickery to try to fool the opposing defensive line with smoke and mirrors. How does an offensive line pass block mano a mano? And the 49ers composite score between their tackles, their guards, and their center, Jake Brendel, is 64, which ranks number 7 in the NFL. This is the highest the 49ers have ever ranked in pass protection under Kyle Shanahan. The tackles have a composite score of 70, which is one of the best in the league. The guards in the center, Jake Brendel, have been more or less average, 57, but they haven't been terrible. You see a lot of teams down in the 40s, the Texans in the 20s. That's brutal. And of course, the 49ers in previous years were also worse than they are now. Above average, as you can tell from the blue shades for the 49ers across the board. 70 is heavily above average, and 57, anything above 50 is going to be above average for a composite score of number 7. So the 49ers offensive line has in general improved, but more than anything, the 49ers offensive line has turned in 3 of its best weeks in pass protection with Brock Purdy as quarterback. And this has been instrumental to the 49ers' recent surge because Purdy, obviously, we know it. This is one of the best stories in football, one of the best stories we've seen in quite some time. Super Bowl contender goes down to its 3rd quarterback. That 3rd quarterback was the very last pick of the draft. He's a 22-year-old, and through 3 weeks of him at the helm, that Super Bowl contender is still a very firm Super Bowl contender, playing as the most efficient team in the NFL. Purdy's dad is even shedding tears in the stands. His family is just so joyous and happy about everything on social media. It is a hell of a story. It's awesome. But what's one of the things that's allowing this story to happen, because football is a team sport, is the 49ers offensive line. And that O-line improvement, you saw it cumulatively with those true pass set scores, but I'm going to dive into it in a little bit more detail right now. First of all, I wrote this a little bit earlier for a previous show. It's a Hollywood script. Brock Purdy and this 49ers entire QB room down to QB3, it is a Hollywood script. Now, what's allowing that Hollywood script to happen? Well, Mike McGlinchey, PFF has pass blocking efficiency. It tracks pressures, sacks, hits, everything given up. McGlinchey was number 29 in pass block efficiency. from weeks 1 up to week 12. Weeks 13 to 15, ever since Brock Purdy took over, Mike McGlinchey is now number 11 out of 60 qualifying offensive tackles, tied with Trent Williams. Hasn't given up a sack since Brock Purdy took over as quarterback. Now, quarterbacks, they get credit for avoiding sacks too. So this is a nuanced discussion. Sacks are a QB stat in that quarterbacks can escape sacks, quarterbacks can get rid of the ball quickly to prevent sacks. But pressures, which are a little bit more nuanced, right? That's just somebody disturbing the quarterback, not necessarily sacking him. That's more of an O-line stat. So an offensive lineman who gives up a ton of pressures, well, it's his fault. He's given up a lot of the pressures. However, sacks, you can often look at the quarterback. Now, Mike McGlinchey has given up way fewer sacks, and by that I mean 0, weeks 13 to 15 than he did prior to that. So maybe Brock Purdy's escapability is helping Mike McGlinchey's pass block efficiency score, but McGlinchey is also down on the pressures that he's given up. So he's been doing a better job at right tackle here over the past 3 weeks. That's been an important improvement for the 49ers. But the most staggering improvement has been at the right guard position. Daniel Brunskill has taken the lion's share of snaps there over the past 3 weeks because Spencer Burford was dealing with an ankle sprain. Brunskill ranks number 1 in the entire NFL amongst all guards, left and right guards, in pass blocking efficiency since Brock Purdy took over. Daniel Brunskill has not given up a single sack, a single quarterback hit, or a single pressure in that time. Meanwhile, Spencer Burford has taken 16 snaps in pass protection over the past 3 weeks, and he's also not given up a single sack, a single hit, or a single pressure. So the 49ers right guard position, which was once their Achilles heel, which was long their Achilles heel up until this season, hasn't given up a single pressure in Brock Purdy's first 3 games at that quarterback 1 position. And that includes the Miami game because he came in after the first drive, after Jimmy Garoppolo got hurt. That is remarkable. Again, Brunskill and to a certain extent, Spencer Burford have not given up a single pressure from right guard. If you've been following the 49ers at all over the past few seasons, you know that that is a monumental improvement. Can it continue? We will see. But you saw the cumulative of offensive line scores. They're on the up and up for the 49ers. So it's a really good sign, in my opinion, that that right guard situation is doing it so well. There's been a really interesting swing at center, though. This swing has happened in the other direction. So this will give us a little bit more texture, a little bit more color to the conversation. There is nothing better when you're thirsty than a drink of water. Literally nothing in the world tastes better than a drink of water, like cold water when you're thirsty. And I ran out and got a burrito about an hour ago, and I'm a little bit parched because I started talking too much about the offensive line. This is so good. And it's tap water. The tap water in San Francisco is probably the best tap water out of any big city in the world. It comes straight from Hetch Hetchy and Crystal Springs. That is good. After this show or right now, if you keep your audio on, go get yourself a glass of water. It's healthy. All right, so the big Jake Brendel swing. Brendel was the second-ranked center in all of football when Jimmy Garoppolo was the quarterback in pass protection and pass block efficiency. Under Brock Purdy over the past 3 games, Jake Brendel has dropped to second to last. So from number 2 to second to last, way down in the 20s out of qualifying centers. Now, there are a couple things that are really interesting here. A, it is a small sample size with Purdy, right? Only 3 games. B, Brendel's given up 5 pressures with Brock Purdy as quarterback, but he hasn't given up any sacks. So that might tell us a little bit about Purdy's escapability. We know that Purdy has a massively fast 10-yard split time. 1.55 10-yard split. That is 95th percentile amongst quarterbacks. He's got a real burst. I mean, that 10-yard split, I would like to see Trey Lance's in comparison. I'm very, very curious to see what Lance's would be in comparison to Brock Purdy's 95th percentile number. But Purdy can get away from some of that interior pressure. So I think that obviously, that plus Purdy's instincts against interior pressure are part of this stat. But there still has to be a reason why Brendel's given up more pressure. He's given up 5 pressures in 3 games, more pressure in that span with Purdy as quarterback than under the, 12 games before Purdy was quarterback. That's really interesting to me because he only gave up 4 pressures over those first 12 or so games. So We do know that the quarterback center battery is one of communication, having to be on the same page. Is Brendel still acclimating to Brock Purdy? Is that why he's giving up more pressure now? Or are opposing defenses trying to blitz or run crazier stuff right up the middle, right at the center, knowing that the 49ers have a rookie quarterback in there? That could be it too. It's going to take some more investigating on film. I want to go back and watch some of the tape to see what the deal with some of these pressures are. But Jake Brendel, by the numbers, has not been as good at pass protection since Brock Purdy took over as quarterback. But Brock Purdy, and I think his escapability on that pressure right up the gut, since there are no sacks on those 5 pressures allowed by Brendel, has made it work. And Aaron Banks at left guard, he stayed about the same. Didn't give up a single sack when Garoppolo was quarterback. Gave up 1 sack here over the past 3 weeks with Brock Purdy as quarterback. Banks has given up his share of pressure, but he hasn't given up sacks, so he hasn't given up the most damaging, effective pressure. The 49ers QBs have generally been able to get away from it. But quarterback offensive line chemistry is definitely a thing. And I think that when you look at the data this year, the O-line and by extension, its chemistry with the quarterback has been better than in years past with the 49ers. Again, if you zoom in on this, you see the 49ers ranked number 7 in true pass set grade, which is a big, big improvement. And I think that Brock Purdy's escapability gives the 49ers yet another dimension to improve the sack rate that they allow. It might not necessarily improve the pressure rate that they allow, but the pressure rate that they've allowed has been solid this year. By the way, this chart comes from Ben Baldwin. But there is just fascinating numbers throughout all of this. And my big question is, can Mike McGlinchey keep up this improvement? I mean, I talked to Mike in the locker room the other day before the 49ers left to Seattle, and he said that he's feeling as good as he ever has with that knee. So, I mean, he was working back through an operation early this season, right? He had the quad injury, and then the knee was bothering him a little bit. So it makes sense that Mike McGlinchey would improve as the season went along. He's a veteran on a contract year. Mike McGlinchey, over the past 3 games, number 11 in pass block. This is the Mike McGlinchey that people have wanted for so many years. Can he keep it up is the question, because that's really going to help Brock Purdy moving forward if we can. You know that Trent Williams is an all-pro on the left side. You don't have to worry about him. Then right guard. I mean, holy crap. If your right guards aren't giving up anything between Burford and Brunskill running that timeshare at right guard, Brunskill a few more snaps here over the past 3 weeks, given the fact that Burford was hurt. If those guys aren't allowing anything, all of a sudden the biggest problem of your offensive line, which was the right side, even to begin this season between McGlinchey and Spencer Burford, they weren't good in pass protection. All of a sudden your right side has given up hardly anything. That's a massive reversal, and it will make up for the fact that your center is playing worse now, or at least pass protecting worse, according to the numbers, than he was earlier in the season when he was number 2 in football. Then the left side of the line with Trent Williams and Aaron Banks has not been an issue at all for the 49ers in pass protection. Again, Banks has given up some pressure, but generally the 49ers quarterbacks have been able to escape it. He's allowed only 1 sack in his first year playing. So that QB O-line chemistry for the 49ers looking really good. And, you know, we can't talk enough about Purdy's escapability. Brock Purdy, I think, has perfectly leveraged his experiences and his skill set into being remarkably comfortable in an NFL pocket early in his career. Keep in mind that he's listed at 6'1", but doesn't look 6'1". So we'll say he's like 6 foot. Okay. That is not prototypical height for an NFL QB. You like 6'2", maybe even 6'3" if you're getting greedy. Those couple inches make a big difference as far as being able to clearly see over all offensive linemen, see the middle of the field. And I think, you know, Purdy's at that height where he's not short, but he has had to move around in the pocket. He has had to learn, especially playing at a high D1 level, how to maneuver a little bit so that he does get those throwing lanes. So you could tell he's got 4 years of college starting experience at an FBS school based on the way that he can manipulate the pocket, step back, step up, do all that. One of his weaknesses that probably worked in college but burns him in the NFL is stepping back when he should step up in the pocket. He tries to run out of it, kind of like Russell Wilson style, right? I don't think Purdy has that maneuverability, that escapability to be able to play in that style. He needs to, you know, he's athletic enough. He has enough of a burst. Obviously, I talk about the 95th percentile 10-yard split, He has enough of that to be able to sprint away, run some bootlegs, do whatever needs to. But when it starts to turn into Houdiniacs trying to spin out of the line of scrimmage or out of the pocket behind the line of scrimmage, I don't think that's Purdy's game. And I think that's something that he has to just get out of his head. I think it might have worked at Iowa State. It obviously didn't work for the 49ers when he tried to spin out against the Buccaneers. And was it Tampa Bay or was it Miami? No, I think it might have been Miami, actually. And Mike McGlinchey gave up the sack. So, I mean, it's plays like that that kind of show the limits of Brock Purdy's athleticism, but he does have significant athleticism and escapability. And, I think that you combine that with a natural feel in the pocket, and that's a good thing for the 49ers QB O-line chemistry. I'm going to give you guys a bonus graphic. Are you ready for this? We're looking at another team's offensive line. This is the Seattle Seahawks offensive line pass block grade over the weeks. Isn't this unbelievable? Obviously, a really low one in week 2. And then look what the 49ers just did to them on Thursday. Look what Nick Bosa and company did to the Seahawks. So you have Geno Smith, a solid stretch in the middle of the season. Turns out that he had really good pass protection, or at least above average pass protection. I mean, this line right here is the 60th percentile. So this is above average to very good pass protection for Seattle for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 straight weeks. Then they have to face Max Crosby, and all of a sudden the pass protection is much worse. Pass block grade goes down to less than the 50th percentile. Better game for the Seahawks against the Rams. Really good game. Their best of the season against the Panthers. Seattle thinks they might be really figuring something out along the offensive line, and maybe they are at this point, but then they have to face Nick Bosa and the 49ers, and they just drag them. And I guess this is not percentile. This is actual pass block grade. So 49ers have kept Seattle way down there both times, probably in the 40s here in week 2, and it looks like they kept them in the 30s, maybe even the 20s in week 15. So that's your bonus graphic. Figured that while we were checking out the 49ers offensive line, we might as well check out one of their division rivals' offensive lines. And the 49ers, they have the handshake between the offensive line and the defensive line before each game. They build everything around the trenches. Well, while we're talking about the O-line, we can talk about Nick Bosa and the D-line dominating people. All right, time to open this up for questions, because we are talking about the 49ers offensive line and QB O-line chemistry. Let's open it up. Oh, yeah, we should talk about run blocking, of course. And 49ers throwback reminded me of this. Yeah, the 49ers were a better run blocking team with Alex Mack because he understood the angles and the adjustments that he needed to make at center. I definitely think that loss has been mostly felt in the run game. That being said, some of the 49ers' best run blocking performances have come over the past couple weeks. So there is optimism that they're really gelling on that aspect of the game. Now, Brendel's higher or lower pass block efficiency here over the past few weeks under Purdy especially has been interesting, and it's making me wonder if Garoppolo is seeing more stuff than Purdy, the rookie, as far as being able to negate pressure and set up the offensive line in front of him. It's probably too early and too small of a sample to be able to tell, but it's definitely something to keep in mind. What the 49ers should be celebrating, though, is that right guard position and right tackle, Mike McGlinchey. They've been really good over the past 3 weeks. Brunskill, McGlinchey, and a little bit from Spencer Burford, who they're running that timeshare with at right guard. All right, any questions about the offensive line? Let's keep it to that for now before we expand things a little bit. I don't know about plans for left tackle beyond Trent Williams. I do know that Colton McKibbitz currently being groomed for a tackle spot. Who knows what the 49ers do with McGlinchey next year? Maybe they think McKibbitz is up to the job. It really helps to have a dominant offensive lineman like Trent Williams. They signed him to a long-term deal. There's still several seasons left. The play hasn't declined yet for Big Trent. So when the time comes, I think the 49ers will cross that bridge, but that bridge is not here yet. Went to Mount Whitney High School in Visalia. Looks like we got a Golden West alum on the show. That's awesome. The 49ers do like to run the ball, and Brendel is really athletic. I think Brendel is athletic enough to execute all the 49ers run blocks, but it's just a lot of this is a matter of cohesion. I mean, remember Brendel in Arizona when he was way down the field on the reverse, when they ran it to Deebo Samuel. Brendel was taking out Buda Baker. So I mean, that's extremely difficult for a 300-pound offensive lineman to do 40 yards downfield, right? So I wouldn't say that Jake Brendel isn't good at run blocking. I think that the communication, because it's such a complex, intricate thing, Shanahan is looking for really difficult blocks, but also perfect coordination, perfect angles, and the difference of a couple degrees or even a couple split seconds, right? That could derail the run game. And that's why you've generally seen the 49ers run game click later in seasons, because it takes a long time for that cohesiveness to be established. So Brendel has to run that as the center. I mean, he has a lot of responsibility in this scheme as the center. And I don't think it's a surprise that the 49ers are getting better the longer that Brendel is right in the middle of that mix. I would not call him a bad run blocker. The latest recovery update on Deebo Samuel, there is nothing new. We said 3-ish weeks, Shanahan did last week, and it still is. So I'd expect to see him back around Arizona. Maybe they put him on a pitch count so he's not coming out cold turkey for the playoffs. This is a good question. How different has it been covering the NFL from when I covered college sports? I like the NFL a lot more. There's a lot more personality. You got the locker room. You don't have that in college. In college, all the guys, the way I like to say it is in college, now I guess they're making money, but back when I was covering college, the teams, basically the team's PR people, they call them sports information directors in college. Those are the people that are paid. The college guys are student athletes, and the college guys are kind of shielded by the school, right? In the NFL, the athletes are being paid millions of dollars, right? The athletes run the show. The PR people, will open it up for the media to come in. But if, Richard Sherman, for example, back in the day when Sherman was there, if Sherman wanted to do an interview, it's up to him. He says, yeah, I want to do the interview. And in college, guys don't have as much pull, or they don't know that they have that much pull. So if the sports information guy cuts it off, then he cuts it off. But in the NFL, you're dealing directly with a lot of these players when you go into the locker room, which is really cool. So that's how the NFL is just different. It's just has more personality. It's more of a grown-up league. You're dealing with professionals and not college guys. A lot of people like college because of the purity of the game, they'll say, but I like the NFL because of the personality of the game. That's the way I'd say it. Plus, like, just from a football standpoint, it's better football in the NFL. These are better players. The best players from college, only the best, are playing in the NFL. And I think that's special because I'm always attracted to the very highest level of competition. Somebody made a Jason Poe shout out. Jason Poe working hard behind the scenes for the 49ers this year. ers offensive line does have a lot of depth. Brunskill's technically depth, but he's performing as their best right guard. But I get it. They want to get Burford as many reps. They want to develop Burford this year because Burford, he's just so impressive. There's a lot of potential power in Spencer Burford's frame. Could give the 49ers a new dimension. He's so smart. He's so intuitive about the game. Just has to get through some of those rookie lumps this season. And Daniel Brunskill, other hand, he's your sixth O lineman, bona fide vet, can plug in at tackle if need be, can plug it at center, can play every single position on the offensive line, and he's been really good here over the past 3 games at right guard. And don't forget about the future plan, says Mike, about Nick Zakelj at center. Speaking of smart, Fordham guy, right? Nick Zakelj, that's the school where Vince Lombardi went, Patriot League school in the Bronx. Nick Zakelj's improved rapidly at every single level. The latest was with the 49ers. Campton started out really nice for Nick Zakelj. He ended up playing really well in the preseason. They're in the spot on the 53-man roster. It's one of the guys they're looking at as a potential center of the future. All right, guys. Not too many questions about the O-line in here. Maybe we keep this show a little bit shorter this time. Maybe you guys just want a 25-minute show. If you have good questions, put them there. I got a little bit more water to drink. We're still growing in viewer count. I mean, it's Monday night. There hasn't been a lot of 49ers news lately because the team's been taking some time off. So maybe we'll take it a little bit easier tonight. Maybe we'll just sit around and chill. You know, I got to get ready for my wedding. My wedding is in May. I have a couple like guest list things that I need to take care of. So that's going to be fun. I made sure to schedule it after the draft, before OTAs. So you got to worry about that. There's so much going on. Football season never really ends. So it's one of those things. Playoff outlook. That's the other video. I mean, I could do another one here, but I did a big hour-long show on the playoffs. 49ers are the number 3 seed right now. Can get up to number 2. I don't think 1 is realistic. We'll see who they play as either 2 or the 3, but I think it's going to be a team that they're significantly better than. To me, the most dangerous potential first-round opponent for the 49ers is the Detroit Lions. And the Lions are currently on the outside looking in. But the Lions are a number 11 DVOA team. Might even be higher than that. They're number 11 entering this week. They beat the Jets. They got a good offense. Jared Goff is playing great football. Offensive line, blocking well for him. Defense, so-so to bad for the Lions, but whatever, The Lions are dangerous. I view them as a lot more dangerous than a team like the New York Giants or Washington, right? Washington's coming in, so we're going to get a preview of that this weekend. My big playoff outlook is, will the 49ers play the Cowboys for the NFC title game? Because it could line up to work out like that, right? If Minnesota wins its first round game, then the 49ers will have Minnesota in the second round based on what's going on right now. And then Dallas, we saw Philly lose Jalen Hurts potentially for some time today with that shoulder sprain. Even with Jalen Hurts, that could be wide open for a team like the Cowboys to go in there and beat them in the divisional round. So 49ers Cowboys NFC title game. We have a lot to look forward to over the next few weeks and couple months. I was thinking about this. Will the Packers squeeze in? Again, if they win their last 3, they're going to be 9-8. If the 49ers beat Washington, who is currently the final team in the NFC playoff picture, so the 49ers beat Washington on Saturday, then that means that they're down to 7 losses and the Packers are at 8. And I know a lot of stuff would have to happen, probably tiebreaker-wise, because Seattle is also there at 7 losses, right? Detroit's also there at 7 losses. But don't ask me the tiebreakers right now. That takes a lot of research. I was an expert on those last year when the 49ers might have needed them. But Washington loss would be huge for Green Bay, which is why I say a lot of mediocre teams are cheering for the 49ers this year. Thanks, Harold. Appreciate you. I see you. Thank you. Washington's DL is massive. D-line is massive. How do the 49ers match up? Well, you keep them off balance. Good play action. Move Purdy out of the pocket. It's going to be big this week. Again, Purdy is the faster version of Jimmy Garoppolo, right? He moves a little bit better, throws better on the run than either Garoppolo or Trey Lance. He's really accurate on the run. You can run some boots this week. Obviously, the run game neutralizes a big defensive line. You're running a lot of outside zone. I mean, every game is a Shanahan game. Play caller has got to be in good congruence with his quarterback, and it's going to have to be true here. I think Chase Young might make a season debut for Washington in this game, and you obviously have to account for him. And I really like Montez Sweat coming off the edge as well. So we talk about the 49ers offensive line improving. Well, here's a big challenge for the 49ers O-line. 49ers do play Saturday against Washington, Joe points out. Purdy does have some wheels, Eric Gomes points out. I have no idea if Charvarius Ward's going to be back by Saturday. He's in the concussion protocol. We're going to get an update tomorrow. Got a bigger. Yeah, Purdy's first step is crazy. Again, Purdy has a 95th percentile 10-yard split amongst quarterbacks. 95th percentile. I mean, that's worth putting up here. Let's look at this. This is awesome. And I got to put this up on the screen. Purdy's escapability. I think it's that site, Mock Draftable. Yeah, here we go. Okay, we're going to take a look at Brock Purdy's spider chart now, draft spider chart. To me, this is awesome. So, you want to, these are percentile grades. You want to get further out toward the outside to show that you're a higher level athlete or that you have higher level measurables. Well, with wingspan, weight, height, vertical jump, hand size, even 40-yard dash, Purdy's below average. But look, holy crap, all of a sudden 10-yard split, 95th percentile. And that's the one that really matters for a pocket quarterback. You got to be able to move within the parameters of the pocket, maybe escape the pocket, run some bootlegs. If there's one of these things that you would really want, it's the 10-yard split. You want that and a brain, right? A brain and a good arm. And Purdy's got a good enough arm to make it in the NFL. He's got a brain and he's got the 10-yard split. I mean, so he doesn't have a load of tools here, but he's got the tools that really matter and he knows how to leverage them into escapability. And that's really helped the 49ers offensive line. I think that's just so cool. I've never seen a division like that. Really, really neat graphic. Dallas and Washington need to be run up against, use the boot and end arounds against them, says Joe Daniel. Yeah. I mean, Washington, I think you definitely got to keep off balance. They've got a good defensive line. Keep the D line on its heels instead of its toes. Teams try to do it to the 49ers. I mean, it doesn't usually work because the 49ers are so strong at defensive tackle with Armstead now back in there. But remember the Chiefs game plan against the 49ers. A lot of lateral movement in that running game, a lot of eye candy. Keep the defensive line on its heels. Then it can't dig in and pass rush. You neutralize that advantage that the 49ers normally have. Same kind of deal when the 49ers are facing a good D line like Washington's. It's a good question from Jake. What would you say the weakness of the 49ers? If you're an opposing coach, what would you attack? Well, in years past, it had always been right guard, right? Right guard, like really, you focus in on that one interior line spot. And 49ers have lost some big games because elite opposing defensive tackles have gone to work over right guard and to a lesser extent, right tackle and pass protection. But McGlinchey is good at a lot of stuff. And as I said, he's above average in pass protection over the past 3 weeks. But if you can compromise right guard, and that's been bad in the past for the 49ers, then right tackle by definition is going to be structurally weaker. It's like a building, right? If you take out one of the pillars that is a structural foundation of the building, then the wall that's being supported by a pillar is also going to probably cave in. So right guard had been that weakness point. Over the past 3 weeks, right guard's been the best in the league in pass protections. The 49ers have sealed that weakness. QB is still a question mark. I'm not saying it's a weakness. It's still a question mark with Brock Purdy. You need a little bit more time. 49ers safeties in coverage downfield, they've shown to bite a little bit too much. Talanoa Hufanga, great tackler, makes some big plays in the back end. Almost had a pick against the Seahawks, but there are some concerns, especially with some play action eye candy for the 49ers safeties. And, the second corner, Diamond Lenore, you're going to keep on picking on him until he proves to be totally locked down. He's trending in that direction, so he's good. So the 49ers have no pronounced weaknesses anymore. They have these slight areas of concern, but the glaring weakness at right guard seems to have been patched up. We'll see if that continues. But this is a good question. And I think the reason this 49ers team has been the most dominant that it's ever been under Kyle Shanahan on an overall basis over the past 7 games is because they have shored up some of those glaring weaknesses. And, James says that feels like they have a vulnerability on deep defense. Rush has to hit home. Yes. To that, though, I would say the entire NFL would have a vulnerability on deep defense if the rush doesn't hit home. It's impossible to cover guys for more than 3.5 seconds. Pass rush has to get to the quarterback. Even if you're Deion Sanders back there, if you don't have a pass rush in front of you, it's going to be hard to stay with a receiver when you don't know where he's going and he's going. Now, Deion might have been the exception. That guy was crazy, but really, really good. But there are no Deion Sanders playing in the league in this modern era. Yeah, I think the 49ers O-line versus the Washington D-line is indeed the matchup of the game. All right. Going to call a little early today. We went over 30 minutes. It's all good. Thanks to everybody for their really good questions. We talked about Purdy's escapability. We talked about the 49ers offensive line. Some real improvement for them. Make sure to sub to The Athletic. Check me out on Twitter and make sure that you do have a good night because tomorrow we get right back on the grind. Hopefully you appreciate it that I stayed up to date with you even during this little off period. There's a mini bye for the 49ers, but like connecting with everybody. So hopefully you guys make all those subscriptions and follow along. Brace yourselves because it's about to get awesome. It's about to get really fun in the NFL, and the 49ers are right at the center of everything as the hottest team in football. All right, we get going again tomorrow. So be sure to hit that little notification bell and subscribe if you haven't, because a lot of content is going to start pouring in, both written content, video content, podcast content, everything. Everything. It's on its way as the 49ers are on their way to the playoffs. Everybody take care.